Howdy, Embers. Welcome back. As you can see, as a quick update, I am out of my brace. It does not hurt to move my hand or my wrist, so I will be getting back to regular tutorials. However, since we did talk about doing several planning videos and project videos last week, we're going to take a quick break from tutorials and just go through those for a little bit. So the first thing we're going to talk about is planning. And I know it seems weird that it's a subject to talk about, but big projects really do require a lot of planning. So in specific, what I'm talking about is this monstrosity, which is the temperature afghan. So if you don't already know what that is, or a temperature project, if you don't already know what that is, it's where you assign yarn colors to specific temperature intervals, and then you basically gather temperature data for an entire year, or some people break it down into 6-month chunks and go from there. So I decided to start that project during the government shutdown of 2019, which horrible idea. Because if you've ever worked in a job where you either are a government employee or work alongside a government agency, you don't work and you don't get money. So buying materials is not easy. So the first thing that I did before I even oh shoot, it's not on this one. Oh no, I have it as pictures. Hang on. Before I even started the project, I decided what year I wanted to do. So I picked 2019. Mostly because at the time I hadn't worked in 3 weeks, so I wanted something to occupy my time. So I picked 2019, and then the first thing I did was decide what my quote pattern was going to be. So I went with a scale that only used 7 colors, so it's a very basic scale. I didn't need to go out and buy a million skeins of yarn. And then what I also did was I did research as to what brands had the accessibility I needed, so I could buy them at Walmart or a craft store, and what brands had the colors that I wanted. So for the temperature blanket, I picked Red Heart, and I picked the Super Saver because that's, easy to access. You can find it just about anywhere that sells yarn. They have a lot of different colors, and if I ever wanted to expand my color range, I could. And so after I decided the brand I wanted to use and my colors, I decided to start picking my scale. So, for instance, my scale is very simple. It goes just about every 10 degrees, with the exception of things below 20 or above 80. So I have a different color for every set of degrees, with the 2 extremes just being all lumped into one. And that is specifically because out here in the Pacific Northwest, we really don't see those temperatures. And that's going back and looking at a lot of historical data, basing it off of what I've experienced. You can kind of predict in a way once you've been out somewhere long enough. Luckily, I live with natives to the area, so I have them to rely on as well for information. So I did that. And then the next part of my process was deciding how I wanted to incorporate the data. So with that, I have, oh, go back, this, which was my original plan. Some of it I kept because originally I wanted to use Karen yarns. They have even more colors, more slight variations, so I could do break my scale down a little bit if I really wanted to. I think for the sake of my sanity, keeping it at 7 colors, not breaking it into like slightly different shades for each group of temperatures was a good idea. But originally I wanted, I kept one skein of a color for the coldest temps, which in this case was Amethyst by Red Heart. About two or three skeins for each remaining color. And if I was going with the Karen, because they did the big pound skeins, I could just do one of those for each set of colors. And that way you're not going to go through that much yarn. I also decided I wanted about a king size blanket, so it would comfortably go over my queen or double size bed. Actually, I think this is a double, not a queen. And then some room to spare, so if I wanted to bundle up, or if Charlie was under the blanket with me, we could still have plenty of space to like stay covered and not be like fighting over the blanket. And so for a king size blanket, it's 108 inches by 108 inches, so it's a big square. Then I decided, because I have a tablet that I use for work, that I was just going to take screenshots of every month and save all that temperature data at the end of the month and go from there. My average temperature will be somewhere between 40 and 80 degrees, saying like maybe 40 at the coldest for an average day, and probably closer to 75 as a high for the entire summer. Which is about what it was. It wasn't too terribly hot. It was actually a very calm wildfire season, so it wasn't humid, it wasn't smoky, it wasn't hard to breathe. It was just a really good summer. And then I also noted that I would probably need more of the light blue, green, and the yellow color, since that's upper 30s, upper 50s, that's the general temperature. So we went through that, and I can even show you about the average. Most of this blanket is going to be green. This blue is actually February, with this triangle here being January 1st. And then I decided the pattern I wanted within the blanket to be granny triangles. And I am kind of regretting that. Luckily, this would be super easy to take apart and to restart, which is kind of what I've been thinking about doing, actually. I kind of want to take it so that each month has, instead of doing triangles, doing granny squares, and then each square being like maybe 5 days, because it just makes it a little bit easier with some months being different, with numbers of days and what have you. It just turns out that this is just very difficult, because right now, looking at my data, I am on May 26th. I'm not even halfway through. It's very cumbersome. It is very time consuming. It is very repetitive. I also want to recompile my data. The original website I was using wasn't working for me anymore, so I just switched to a different website that I was getting that data from. So I kind of want to change it just a little bit to accommodate the fact that I'm not using the same source as I was when I started on the January dates. And honestly, it will be a lot easier to manage. If you look, this blanket isn't very uniform. There are a lot of these ribs here. So changing up a little bit is probably for the best. I'm not too terribly far in, and if I want to, I can just start all over again with a brand new year, brand new idea for how I want to do it. So that's that's this week's video. Next week, I think we will talk about the mandala project, and how I've been working on that one, what my plan for that one is. And we'll go forward to work towards talking about the other projects that I have in this, what I call my laundry basket of horror. It's full of everything. It's where I just keep all my current projects that I'm working on, except for the mandala, because the mandala stays next to my bed. It's much easier to work with when I'm just trying to recover from the day. So we'll see you guys next week. Remember to like me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, both at Forged by Blackfire. Like this video, subscribe to my channel for further nonsense. I don't know whatever I'm going to post here. It's probably just going to be craft videos, but I really don't know. So I will see you next week. Bye.